Diane. Well, Ben, back to you, and the subject is chaos, the undertone of UK.
Yes, Chaos Agents. Again, I think I used the same title last week, and I'm going to pull together a few of the threads that I talked about last week. Back to this guy, Sir Paul Marshall, and GB News. And I'm going to link him to Radical Marxism, Common Purpose. Good, bit of an old UK column favourite in there. The Fabian Society, the World Economic Forum, Gates Foundation, Omidyar, the UN, and actually posed the question once again: what is GB News actually up to, and how is this guy's interests aligning with all of those organisations that I've just mentioned? Now, I used the same image last week. Where I talked about Marshall's relationship with George Soros, who put money into Marshall's hedge fund and essentially created him as a significant financial force in the UK, while at the same time funding left-wing organisations like Black Lives Matter, the International Rescue Committee, and the fact that these two wings to the beast are creating chaos in our discourse and in our society, and ultimately out on the streets, basically, so that people like Marshall and Soros can profit from this. And I also talked about this organisation, the Black Equity Organisation, which was co-founded by David Lammy. This is about delivering equity, which is beyond equality, and this is about equal outcomes. This is communist. It can only be delivered by a totalitarian state intervening in the social order on a constant basis. Yeah, this is what this is. There's no other way to understand it. Black Equity Organisation, and it's directly linked to Paul Marshall, actually. So I delivered those two as separate segments last week. This week I'm going to tie them both together, right? So we got equity, Black Equity Organisation, its trustee board, very interesting people. You're going to have a look at this. We'll provide a link. And what we're particularly interested in today is this chap here. This is Rick Lewis, who is a British-American, a mixed race guy, and he leans very heavily on the black bit, right? Obviously, he's on Black Equity Organisation. He's trading very heavily on this side of his identity, and his background is that he's a big-time real estate investor. He's the executive chairman of this thing, which is Tristan Capital Management, hundreds of millions of dollars of assets under management. He's also got a load of other interests at play. He runs something called the Black Heart Foundation, and he's also, importantly, for the interests of today, on the board of governors of something called King Solomon Academy. Yeah, and King Solomon Academy is an academy school in Marylebone in central London, which, if we just look at the landing page here, is pushing quite a specific demographic agenda, I would say. This is central London. Let's have a little look at the little girls on the front page of the website here. And this is run by ARC Schools, yeah, which is, I think, quite well known to us. We've covered it on the column before. And ARC Schools run a load of these academies around the UK. This is the ARC Schools website. And who's on the board of trustees for ARC Schools? Paul Marshall, and also Ian Wace as well, which is the Marshall Wace hedge fund that George Soros helped create to bring it back to where we started.
It's interesting how the big money in the hedge funds are always somewhere there in the background.
Indeed, it is. So Paul Marshall through radical Marxism, and now we're going to take him on to... Oh, actually, no, before I go ahead, the gentleman I was just talking about, Rick Lewis, is also on the board of the Earthshot Prize, which is Prince William's big sustainability play, and that was done work with Common Purpose at the end of last year, so it's linked in there as well. Also, Marshall's is working with the LSE, amazingly. So London School of Economics, which was founded by the Fabian Society back in 1895. So the LSE is a Fabian Society organisation. On this, they are hammering out a new world, apparently, And, this just takes us directly into Arch Fabian, Tony Blair, and half of the Labour cabinet, every single Labour Prime Minister that's ever served as Prime Minister of the country. And Marshall is very closely linked to them. He's been delivering lectures for them. This one, which we'll provide a link to, was actually given. This was an interview by Manoush Shafiq, who's just been announced as Chief Economic Advisor to Keir Starmer. And this is part of his formal role at the LSE, running something called the Marshall Institute. And he's actually built a whole huge building for the LSE, right? So there's not some kind of casual relationship that he has with the London School of Economics, which was founded by the Fabian Society. He's actually spending tens, potentially hundreds of millions of pounds building physical infrastructure. This is the Marshall Institute. The Marshall Institute is particularly interested in social impact, which is the transformation of society. That's literally what this institute has been set up for. And it is run by, go to the people page, this guy was one of the directors, Kieran Boyle, who is a very, very, very naughty boy into a lot of very bad things, Mr. Boyle, who amongst many things is a young global leader of the World Economic Forum. Yeah.
Yeah, this is shadow government,
yes.
Effectively. This is the powerhouse running out of sight of most of the public. It's there when you go looking for it, but it's something which needs to be brought to the surface.
Yes.
If we're going to be able to explain what is causing all this mayhem and chaos in UK.
Absolutely. And I would certainly imagine that the vast, 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 vast majority of GB News viewers have no idea and would object quite strenuously to the idea that Paul Marshall is working with Black Equity Organisation and the World Economic Forum, because these are the World Economic Forum in particular. I mean, these are the bad guys, right? And surely if you're a nationalist, GB News, you should be protecting the interests of the country, but actually working behind the scenes and actually hand selecting. I'm sure Paul Marshall was intimately involved in finding and hiring this guy, Kieran Boyle. He knows exactly what he's about. Make that make sense. You can't. Then finally, back to the GB News website. Let's have a look at their investors. Legatum describes itself as a global partnership with a mission at its core. And, some classic corporate guff. You go to their website, they're a team of people bound together by a shared desire to make the world better for everybody, apparently. It's basically a slug of tax-efficient money based in Dubai, wanting to change your life without your permission, quite frankly, run by these people, Mark Stollerson, Alan McCormick, who's actually the chairman of GB News. Yeah, so this Legatum thing is not just funding it; he's also got executive responsibility for how the thing is being run. Two other investors, Philip Vassalou, Christopher Chandler, all fascinating. We don't have time to get into it in a huge amount of detail. How did Legatum go about transforming the world? They have these three funds: Luminos Fund, the End Fund, the Freedom Fund, and where does that take us to? Straight into this world. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Omidyar Network, UNICEF, Children's Investment Fund Foundation, which is Chris Hone, another Blair ally, and ultimately the US State Department, amongst many, many, many others. Yeah, and that's who Paul Marshall, the founding investor of GB News, owner of Unheard, owner of The Spectator, is directing a lot of his time, money, and attention in the background.
Ben, thank you very much. Many, many questions there. We'll talk a little bit more in extra on this one as well. But this is the key to understanding what is unfolding inside UK. The idea that the government in Westminster is controlling the country is becoming more and more laughable. It's clear that these powerful organisations are operating under the surface in their networks. And of course, they can only do it on the scale they are doing it by the fact they have access to huge amounts of money through these private hedge funds and others.
Absolutely.
But we'll continue to keep lifting the lid on it. This is the sort of information that the million people on the streets of London need to understand, because what's happening to them, what they're experiencing, is more complicated than the simplistic message being put across.